Good morning, everybody. Welcome into Denver Sports Coffee Break presented by Superbook Sports. Rachel Vihel and D-Mac hanging out with you. We've got Jake Shapiro and Will Peterson both joining us because it's game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. D-Mac, happy Thursday, my friend.
Here we are. I'm excited to have a second game. That's the great thing about these 7-game series. It's one after another. So it's awesome. I'm excited for tonight. I'm glad to have another game to go to.
No, I'm with you. I am a little tired, though. I've been telling everybody ever since COVID, I feel like I can do one major thing a day, and I feel like I need breaks all the time in between. You're a different breed, so you can't even talk to me about this, but we obviously had the game Tuesday. Last night I was at a graduation till 9:30 at night, which I want to get into your graduation stories if you have any funny ones. But then tonight, and I'm like, I need a night just to sit on my couch because I'm just tired. I feel like I never recovered from COVID of like getting back out there and being busy 24/7 because before COVID, I was like boom, 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 next thing after the other. But here I am, or maybe this is just getting older. I don't know, D-Mac.
What was the graduation that was so late at night?
So my cousin graduated from Mountain Vista High School down here in Douglas County, and it was at Red Rocks, which was really cool. But of course, it started raining on us, and so they were like trying to hurry it up. But his graduating class was also like 589 people or something like that. So it took forever. And because it was raining, everybody was like cold, and everyone was just trying to like hurry up. But it was like Red Rocks is obviously an awesome place to be, but it was just the weather didn't help. But
okay,
589 people, that's a lot of names to read in cold weather.
That's rough, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're a good, what do you say, your cousin?
Yep, my cousin.
You're a nice cousin to do that.
Thank you. I was in charge of, I'm the media person, right? So I'm always in charge of like getting videos or pictures or anything. And I just learned too that you don't ask for permission when it comes to any of this stuff. And it's probably because if you ask for permission when it comes to the sporting events, you wouldn't get any of the permission. So I just like, I'm the one running around and like getting in people's way and like getting all the cool pictures and stuff. And it's just me. And my aunt's always like, I love you for this because I can just trust you to go down there and get whatever. And like, I'm the obnoxious person that you see down in the first row, like getting the best pictures. That's me. I've accepted it.
Well, you're a good cousin. I'm happy for you and your family, and high school graduation is wonderful. Plans for the future for the cousin?
He is going to Santa Barbara for school. He just got
UCSB?
I believe so, yes. So he's
Wow.
really excited. Yeah, he was waiting to hear back. He really wanted to go to California, and so he just heard back on Tuesday. So right before graduation happens, he finds out he gets to go. So I'm excited for him. It's for, we're talking with my aunts, and I'm like, it's a real, like, when you leave the state, you really have to grow up, and it'll be a big learning curve, but I know he's really excited.
UCSB, if he's going to UCSB, I've been there several times.
Yeah.
It's one of the more remarkable colleges in America. It is, Rachel, it's literally on the beach.
It's a mile away from the beach. I'm like,
no,
are you kidding me?
Oh, well, then he's not going to UCSB. UCSB, I'm not joking, is on the beach. Like, there's sand in the parking lot.
Incredible.
If he's going to Santa Barbara City College, that's a JUCO, which is in downtown Santa Barbara, which is also a very nice junior college.
Okay.
But I hate to be a Santa Barbara college nerd on you, but there's a big difference.
Okay. Well, I just found out
Whatever.
that the apartments were like from where he could be dormed, it was like a mile away. So maybe I don't know how big campus is. That's all besides the point.
Well, see, he's probably going to Santa Barbara City College because there are no dorms at Santa Barbara City College. And a lot of the kids that live and go to school at Santa Barbara City College actually live near the campus of UCSB. So it's kind of but whatever, who knows? I'm sure he's going to have a great time. Santa Barbara's a wonderful place. I shouldn't be a college nerd. That's awesome. Great news. That's fantastic.
I'm sitting there, we're leaving last night, and my boyfriend is like, Rachel, you're being like all nostalgic. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I remember after you graduate and you're like so excited and all you and your friends go out and you're like, what should we go do? Because this is like the best summer of your entire life. And so I was like all in my feels last night of like, oh, like this is so much fun. Do you remember what you did after your high school graduation? Because not trying to make you feel old, D-Mac, but how many years has it been since you graduated?
33. No,
33.
36.
Do you remember what you did after your
Yeah,
graduation?
I know exactly what I did. So I was really into this girl. We've had this kind of conversation before.
Is this the
And
French girl, the French class girl?
yep, the French class girl.
We love her.
And it was a very emotional time. I actually wrote a song that me and a couple of buddies performed at our high school graduation. A song. I like wrote a song that we performed. It's called
Wait.
Goodbye 87. If you want, I can play you a snippet at the end. At the end of coffee break, if you want to hear a little bit of it, I can play it for you. If
I
you
would
want.
be honored. And
So
we will
just remind me. If you don't remind me, don't worry about it. I don't have to do it. But I talk about in your feelings. I was super in my feelings about it. So the day after graduation, not to get too serious, but I didn't drink or party in high school either. I was part of a group called Peer Ed, which is kind of like SAD, Students Against Drunk Driving. I was the president of this peer group. So no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. So it was a little bit of a weird thing for me because so much of it was this big party and all this. Why I just didn't do that.
Yeah.
I had strong beliefs about it, so I didn't do any of that. So while everybody else was, going nuts in my little beach town where I grew up, I got in my car. This is going to sound a little lonely, but trust me, I was in my feelings. I drove to Stowe, Vermont, where my uncle had a office that had an apartment. He also had a house, but in his office, he had a small little studio apartment. And I stayed for a week by myself in Stowe, Vermont, where I hiked mountains and I biked and I ran and I just sort of got away from all of it because I just didn't want to be around all that stuff. And then I drove back and I felt better about things. And it was kind of like where I disconnected from my high school, looking forward to college because I had been accepted to Syracuse and I was looking forward to getting into broadcasting. So being around my small little hometown for graduation, I just kind of got through it, even though I wrote a song and everything about it. So I'll never forget it. It was actually one of the bigger emotional journeys I've had in life to move from one thing to something very significant. And I kind of, Rachel, in all honesty, never looked back from that moment. I never really lived in my hometown again. I, visited for periods of time, but I just moved on. I moved on and I couldn't wait to get into broadcasting. True story.
That's so sweet. I can't tell you what I did the night after my graduation. I'm trying to really rack my brain. My 10 year is coming up next year though, so that's crazy to think
Your
about.
10-year 10-year high school reunion, 20-year high school reunion, don't miss. 20-year high school reunion was one of the best things I ever went to in my life. Okay. Loved my 20-year high school reunion. 10 years, a little, I don't know, man. You might see people around too much at your 10 years. But whatever. Who knows? Who knows? What do I know? I know
I'll
nothing.
let you know if I decide to show up to my 10-year. I follow a bunch of people, obviously, on social media, so that kind of keeps me, I don't know, quote unquote, engaged with all of them. And to be honest, I have no desire to go sit down and have a dinner or do drinks or anything with.
Well, it's hard for me to believe there's many people in your high school graduating class who are as accomplished as you yourself, Rachel V. Hill. So I think you would go back to your 10-year with pride, rightfully so.
Oh, thank you, D-Mac. I appreciate that. Okay, I do want to get, obviously, to the big Nuggets game, though, tonight. So we will bring in Jake Shapiro to talk about it. And I got to give credit to Jake. I got to give it to him because, oh, my goodness, did he give me, the roast of the century, essentially, with Jake. Nick Benito tweets, Lakers in 6, and Jake says 6 is also the number of tackles Nick recorded last season. And
wow.
Jake, I need to give you a little high five when it comes to that one.
Thank you. That wasn't a hard one to find.
You're on the roast train recently.
I've got receipts from a lot of things, and a lot of people have irked me, particularly when it comes to the Denver Nuggets, who I have loved and cheered for a long, long time.
Okay. Fair enough.
We are in a weird world here today with this Nugget stuff. Lisa Salters.
What was that?
I mean, you are a national broadcaster, and she reveals on, I don't know exactly who she is with, looked like a fill-in for the Rich Eisen show, but Lisa Salters admits that she, despite her job, had no idea how good Nikola Jokic was. I mean, listen, if I'm a little slow on Rui Hachimura, okay, and I'm a little slow on Rui Hachimura, I'm a little slow on Austin Reeves, I've certainly caught up at this point. How in the world is your primary job a basketball broadcaster and you're just finding out, you're just sending text to friends that Jokic is good? I mean, I guess this is a revelation in terms of the lack of respect Denver really has got from the national media. I guess what we thought, we now have proof that we know.
You know what's crazy? During game one, I was texting some people, texting some friends, and I was like, have you guys seen this Anthony Davis player play? I hadn't seen him before. He's really good, guys. He went for 40 points. Like, he's really good. Maybe he could be an MVP one day.
The only thing I'm going to say about it is at least she was honest. She didn't try to fake it. I get it, okay? Because we're not all caught up, and Jokic is a different breed. So, like, if she didn't know who Jamal Murray was or MPJ or any of them, like, that would give me a little bit more of, like, I get it. But she didn't lie. At least she was completely honest about it, and she was like, I'm just now, learning, and I'm amazed by this player. We have to at least give a little credit there, because she easily could have gone up there and been like, oh, I've been following him all this time and yada, yada, yada. We all know that any national media member gets fed stats like nobody's business. She could have got up there easily and, like, had dropped a bunch of stats and made us all think that she knew,
all right,
so much about him.
Well, maybe it's just a bigger reflection of why things are so seemingly slanted about the Nuggets, because it's not that people hate the Nuggets or dislike them. They seriously don't know. Yeah. And I mean, that might sound weird to us, but the NBA and TV certainly haven't done the Nuggets any favors. What time have these games started in the playoffs? Yeah. We are in this weird, crazy time zone people don't even understand. But it really only seems to come to the NBA. Everybody in the media seems to have no problems understanding who guys are on the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
The Colorado Avalanche seems to be well known. It really is. I think the Rockies would be well known if they, needed to be well known, that sort of thing. But even with the Rockies, like, give me somebody who's a national broadcaster. They would certainly know who Charlie Blackmon is or Chris Bryant. They would have an understanding of these guys. What is stunning is this is the MVP. This isn't hey, I'm really catching up on Vlatko Čančar these days. This is the MVP. And if you're really not sure that Ish Smith is on the Nuggets, then I'm not going to give you any slack. Yeah. Heck, it's fine to me if you didn't even realize who Christian Brown was. Maybe you don't pay attention to college basketball or the draft, okay, as I'm rolling my eyes. I'll just admit for myself, I really didn't know who Austin Reeves was until recently. But once he gets to be pretty good, it's like, okay, I'll catch up on Austin Reeves. Mm-hmm. And now I know a lot more about Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, even a guy as big as D'Angelo Russell. You certainly catch up on things quickly. Yeah. So to admit that you've gone through years as a sideline reporter, and Jokic has won the MVP twice, and you're like, wow, it's the first time I've seen him. Huh? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
This is the number one sideline reporter for the league's biggest broadcast partner, and she doesn't know who the NBA's Patrick Mahomes is. Like, Patrick Mahomes, 2 MVPs. Nikola Jokic, 2 MVPs. Denver, by the way, much bigger than Kansas City. We have not had any of these discussions with, would it be bad if the Chiefs won a Super Bowl for the TV ratings? Would it be bad to give these to Patrick Mahomes? Should we give this to a player from New York? Like, it's just absurd that these are conversations in the NBA. Frankly, I'm sick of it. I'm so happy that the world is just capitulating. Capitulate. That is the word of this Nuggets playoff run. I've been tweeting this all season long. I'm just like, it's not, and D-Mac said it too. It's not that people hate the Nuggets. It's simply that they don't watch the Nuggets. They don't watch the NBA. They sit there and they listen to 6 minutes of the Bill Simmons podcast. Then they hear, I agree with what Bill said. Then they say a telephone version of that to their friend, who tells a telephone version of that to their friend at the bar. And then all of a sudden, that's the national narrative. Nobody is watching these games. It's mind-blowing.
Let me be fair. It's clear Mike Greenberg doesn't know much about the Nuggets, and he hosts national TV shows post-game. It's clear that Max Kellerman doesn't know much and hasn't really watched the Nuggets either, and he does national radio and national TV.
Yeah.
It's not just Lisa Salters. There's a lot of other people that are just, they're just catching up for whatever reason.
These are all ESPN people. Last night in the post-game show on TNT for the Eastern Conference game, Shaq, who would not give the title of Superman to Dwight Howard because he thought it was offensive, said Nikola Jokic is Superman. The TNT guys love Nikola and love the Nuggets. So I think it's just an ESPN thing.
Okay. You could be right.
Maybe. Yeah. But Jake, we know we're going to see adjustments out of the Lakers tonight. What's the biggest one you're expecting to see?
Well, I think they're going to start with Rui Hachimura starting on Nikola Jokic in the starting lineup. The big question is whether or not they start Dennis Schroeder or D'Angelo Russell. Schroeder's probably been better recently for the Lakers, but Russell has been an all-star in the past, and there's also some mumblings that he could be offended by being taken out of the starting lineup. I wrote about that for denversports.com as well. You also have the option when you're starting Hachimura on Jokic to do the exact same thing with Vanderbilt off the bench, where Vanderbilt would play on Jokic in some limited minutes. I'm also expecting the star players, LeBron, Nikola, Anthony Davis, to play less than 40 minutes. I don't think all those guys are going to play 40 minutes again. And I think the pace is going to be a lot less quick. So we're going to see the scoring come down. We're going to see the Lakers and Nuggets make some adjustments. The biggest question to me from the Nuggets side is, what are they going to do with Aaron Gordon? Is Aaron Gordon going to sit on the block and in that dunker spot? Are the Nuggets maybe going to roll out Michael Porter Jr. at the power forward position at times? Are the Nuggets going to change the way they stagger their bench lineup and put Michael Porter Jr. with that stagger instead of Jamal Murray? And that effectively changes the way Aaron Gordon's position. So it really comes down to, how can we change our spacing on offense with Aaron Gordon, and how can we make our defense a little bit more switchable for our scheme on LeBron James?
Anthony Davis is one of the best defenders in the league, and Jokic killed him. But they were much more effective when they put Hachimura just right up with Jokic, although it was only 6 attempts. There was only 6 times. So let's not blow it completely out of proportion. But what the Lakers are doing when they do that, and I think they should at least try it. I think it's on them to at least try. It really does eliminate Aaron Gordon in that dunker low post position. It makes it virtually impossible for him to get the ball to pass to, and it stops the cutting lanes. So it makes it much more difficult for guys with that Jokic dump, like we saw with KCP earlier in the game, where he got it to him as he was cutting through the lane. If you put AD back as like a safety, really in a zone defense, well, the cutting lane is closed, the dunker position is closed. But here's what's unbelievably wide open. Corner threes are ridiculously wide open, and it could be open for multiple people. So it is a quirky little situation, because how much do you trust Aaron Gordon in that corner 3 situation? He's made them, he's missed them. This is why it potentially sets up for an unbelievable game for Michael Porter Jr. Possibly.
Real quick on Aaron Gordon. I saw the comment, Gordon needs to make his threes. Jake, we're there every single time for pregame, and we watch Aaron Gordon drain the threes all the way around. And the fact that we see him get so many open threes and he doesn't make it, I'm like, this just kills me a little bit inside, because we know that he goes out there and he practices them for sure. But people were pretty hard on Aaron Gordon come Tuesday night. Was there other ways that he was being really beneficial on the floor, or was it really just kind of a tough night for Aaron Gordon?
It was a tough night, but he was okay on defense. He was acceptable on defense, but his offense needs to be better and his spacing needs to be better. And this is so funny that like this adjustment could be like a game breaker for the Nuggets, because all these basketball people will put it into like all this jargon that you don't understand. Simply putting Aaron Gordon on the wing and Michael Porter Jr. in the corner might change everything for the Nuggets, because Porter will be the guy that shoots those threes leading to a big game, as D-Max alluding to. And Gordon, while maybe the wing three is a lower percentage shot, he can come in and attack the closeout a little bit better from the wing than he can the corner. So, like, these are very simple things. And the funny thing about Nikola Jokic is, for as good as he is, and the amount of things that he can do on offense, and the amount of abilities he gives to everybody else, the Nuggets can play such a simple offense because he is so incredibly amazing. The best play I saw the Nuggets run in game 1, they ran 3 times in a row. And they scored in three different ways. They ran the exact same play 3 times in a row. And then the second best play I saw the Nuggets run was it wasn't really even a play. They were in transition. And I think KCP set a side screen for Nikola Jokic, who just went straight to the basket. And that's that left-handed layup Jokic had right over Schroeder in the second half, in the third quarter. So the Nuggets are running like the actions that you're taught in high school. And it works because it's really simple. It forces really hard decisions to make between 2 very obvious things. And Nikola will pick apart those decisions. So, yeah, the Nuggets can run more complex actions. They definitely do. But we're talking about the Nuggets like making adjustments that you're going to be able to point out on the screen and go, oh, they're doing this a little bit differently. And it's working. And LeBron's going to know it too. Like, it's not going to be some big secret. And that's one of the reasons why I love basketball, frankly, is it's not some giant secret of these teams don't know what they're doing or these teams don't know each other. It simply comes down to execution and who makes more shots and who wants the ball more. Like, it's that easy.
It is hard to imagine the Nuggets scoring less than 125 points tonight. It really is. So pick your poison, Lakers. You know, how do you want it served to you? So I think, but I don't think the Lakers have much of a choice. I think you saw the horror show when they went small, which was this ridiculous rebounding advantage. And the Nuggets did lead by a lot in the first half. I think as many as 17 and then 21 into the third quarter. But listen, that could have been way worse for the Lakers. As good as the Nuggets were scoring 72 points, guys, I'm telling you, they had some wide open shots that they missed.
So just D-Mac, on your point, just doing some reporting here. So LeBron started at the 4, Anthony Davis started at the 5. The Lakers internally were shocked at how big the Nuggets were. Were shocked. They were not expecting the Nuggets to be that big, which is just, again, very simple thing. You could look at a sheet of paper and see how big the Nuggets were, but the team in the Western Conference Final did not realize how big the team was, and they got murdered on the boards to start the game.
I see this comment, and it says, and of course, the NBA called Tony Brothers to bail out the Lakers in Game 2. First of all, my first thing on this is I can't believe there is a Twitter page called NBA Referees that they give headshots as to who is calling each game. I was absolutely mind blown when I saw that come across my timeline. I don't know if they've done it all season long, but we're talking about the referees, and they're getting their own headshots put up of like, oh my goodness, you're going to be calling tonight's game, but Tony Brothers is in the Mile High City. Jake, what does that mean for the Nuggets?
Yes, they've been doing that all season long. They do that every single game.
Oh my God, that kills me inside.
I've had some family members of NBA players reach out to me and send me the link to, hey, the NBA refs thing drops at X time every single day. You can see the assignment. And yes, it does matter. This is a family member of an NBA player. And they're like, you should keep note of this. The Nuggets are 4-1 in the last 5 playoff games officiated by Tony Brothers. Tony Brothers, who has had some great animosity with Nikola Jokic in the past, and Nuggets fans feel some type of way about, rightfully, because it feels like there is something anti-Jokic about Brothers. The Nuggets have actually done okay with Brothers, and you can make a case that they've actually done a little bit better, at least in the recent sample size, with Tony Brothers. So I'm not that affected. If you're going to tell me Scott Foster is on the game, who has Scott Foster is the godson to the guy who Tim Donaghy, who is, part of the big gigantic scandal, all those years back ago. So Scott Foster is the one where you look out and you're like, huh. But Scott Foster also called some ridiculous things for the Nuggets to beat the Raptors earlier this year. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on the referees thing. I don't know if it's necessarily the names so much as it's like it's really clear when it's not going the Nuggets' way. And I think the whistle, for the most part, for 3 quarters went the Nuggets' way in Game 1, and the fourth quarter got a little out of hand for the Lakers.
I think it's fun to think about a referee being against your team as a convenient way to have excuses. But as Jake pointed out, they're 4-1 in their last 5 games with Tony Brothers reffing. what happened between Brothers and Jokic, what did seem to be a real thing in years past, seems to be yesterday's news at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think at this level where it's a big deal for everybody. It's a big deal for the coaches, for the players, for the referees. I mean, you're part of an exclusive crew. I don't see it going that way because I think the referees understand calling a technical foul on a guy, at this level. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous unless it is really, really warranted because there's just so much on the line. So, and there's too much attention on you. And I don't think you can play those Mickey Mouse games at this level. I really don't. Now, that doesn't mean you can't call fouls, but the issue with Tony Brothers and Jokic specifically has been technical fouls, not just fouls. So I'm not that concerned about it. I think it's kind of one of those, oh my God, roll your eyes sort of moment. But when you really look at it factually, it hasn't been that big deal of late. Now, if something goes sideways, trust me, oh my God, Tony Brothers, of course. But I would be surprised if that happens. I'm not going to be surprised if there's friendly whistles towards the Lakers in LA. In fact, I am completely anticipating that. And there might have been a friendly whistle here or there in the fourth quarter. But I went back and watched it. I thought it was all pretty legit, that the fouls that were called were fine. I was surprised they didn't let him play a little bit more. But go back and watch the fourth quarter. I mean, the Nuggets made it hard on themselves a lot of times. And you can't take away what the Lakers did well. LeBron was a dominant presence in the inside. He made his free throws, and Austin Reeves was pretty incredible. In fact, I went back and I was like, wow, how did LeBron take that three-pointer, not Austin Reeves, in that situation? Yep. And you know what? LeBron just wanted it. Like, he really had tons of time on the play clock. They didn't really run anything for him. He just took it at the top of the key. Like, that was actually kind of weird. He
had a layup. He had a layup there.
Yeah, it's just he just kind of wanted it. He just sort of wanted that moment for himself, which was actually odd considering that's really not how he plays. And that's not how he played that whole game. But at that moment, LeBron wanted that moment for himself. The shot was a bad shot. I mean, he was open, and it wasn't that hard of a shot, but it just seemed like, wouldn't you at least try to get the ball into Austin Reeves' hands? If they collapse on Reeves and he gets it back to LeBron, aren't you going to get a better shot? So, and by the way, I think defensively, the Nuggets will solve the Austin Reeves open problem like that. I don't think that's a hard fix.
No. Jake, real quick, I want to get your score prediction for tonight.
Give me 122 to 103 Nuggets. This should be a blowout. I'm with D-Mac. I think the Lakers are too old and too injury prone, and the altitude and all of it. It's going to be really tough to come back in game 2 for them. The adjustment that Rui Hachimura made and Darvin Ham's a genius for. My light went out. The light went out. The light's going to go out for Darvin Ham. Like, they're not going to have the ability to solve Nikola Jokic. And as D-Mac kind of alluded to with Austin Reeves, this isn't the Nuggets had a problem and they didn't know why Austin Reeves was open. The Nuggets defense schemed for Austin Reeves to be open. So if they want Austin Reeves to not be open, they'll simply just have to give LeBron or AD something, but they can find a way to make that happen pretty easily.
Okay. Edward says 118, Lakers 85. Okay,
Whoa.
So he's expecting a really, really big blowout.
Wow.
Jake, I know you are going to go do the War Room down at Brothers Barbecue. Good luck. Who's going to be joining you today?
We've got Jenna Garcia, Chad Andrews, and my guys Stoke and Zach, of course. So should be fun. I'm going to get some eats in. I haven't eaten yet today. I always try to save up when I do one of these remotes at Brothers Barbecue because they've got such good eats there, and I love seeing the guys over there. They're good people.
Who will be bringing food back to the studio?
I'll be coming in, so maybe I will.
Please and thank you.
I've got the Rockies podcast today too, so.
Let's go. All right, Jake, appreciate you as we will bring in Will Peterson now. I see another comment. Lakers 105, Nuggets 117, and then Nuggets 98, Lakers 94 in there. So let's see. Will Peterson, good morning.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I want to point out something D-Mac said about the refs toward the end of that game. the last 2-minute report came out, which the league makes
Oh.
public, right?
Okay.
And they talk about correct calls and correct non-calls. And guys, we've seen this for years. Oh, they missed one on Jokic. They got this wrong on Gordon, this and that. I will give the NBA credit. There was 19 calls they reviewed, correct calls and correct non-calls in the final 2 minutes. Guess how many they got right?
19.
I was going to say 18.
Was it perfect?
They went 19 for 19 in game one. So I'm really glad that wasn't a story, because we all know the refs are going to be a story at some point in this series, but it's nice after game one. They go 19 for 19. They have a perfect final 2 minutes, and we're not talking about
Well,
it.
that's really interesting because I didn't know that. That's great that you know that, Will.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but when I rewatched it, that's how it felt. It felt like, oh, that these are all legitimate. They got all these calls right. I even love how they didn't blow the whistle. And this might have happened outside of 2 minutes, but they didn't blow the whistle when Michael Porter Jr. went down and got the ball, because I thought they were just going to call for a jump ball right there. But when you really go back and look at it, it wasn't tied up like that. The referees gave him the opportunity to do something with the ball. So, no, good game by the refs. Good game by the refs, top to bottom. The Lakers just pushed the ball inside more. They got more calls because of it. And, they opened things up because Austin Reeves was pretty awesome. So, I mean, good game. Good game top to bottom. I mean, nothing on the refs on that one whatsoever.
Let's keep it going here on out too. Well, what are you expecting to see tonight out of the Nuggets? Out of the Nuggets or the Lakers? I almost called them the Luggets to mix it up there. The Luggets. What are you expecting out of the Nuggets game tonight?
Well, listen, I think the lack of rest for the Lakers is going to be a real factor. We saw how tired LeBron James looked coming off the court in game one. They had that great tunnel shot of him. And when he finally got out of view of the crowd, he put his hands on his head and he just looked exhausted. Remember they had that weird 4-day break between games 2 and 3 against Phoenix? No 4-day breaks in this one. It's every other night the rest of the way. That's going to be a huge benefit to the Nuggets, particularly this will be the only time back-to-back at altitude, obviously, because 5, 6, and 7 would go Denver, LA, Denver. So you have to win game 2. The only time in the series, like I said, you get them back-to-back at altitude on, less than 48 hours rest? That's big for Denver.
Yeah, and, we've already covered how much warmer it is in the building because they've melted the ice. I actually saw a video of how they do that. So they really do just sort of turn the temperature up, the ice melts, and then they get plow trucks out there with a plow and plow off the ice. And it was kind of sad, actually seeing that. It was our Avalanche, they're plowing the ice. But all of that has created and I don't know what the temperature, it's a little cloudy out right now, but I don't know what the temperature is going to be in general today. Mm-hmm. But all of that kind of adds up, guys. All of it makes a difference. And I think it's going to have a negative impact on the Lakers. I think they're going to fade in the fourth, not thrive like they did. Their best option is to go with Rui and Hachimura, and they'll do that early. I think they're going to wear down. Now, here's the guy that could save their bacon, and that guy is D'Angelo Russell. He really could, and I think he will get a chance to start. And I thought it was interesting that after the game in full uniform, D'Angelo Russell was putting up 100 3-pointers after the game with the teammate and a couple of trainers. So I think they're going to go with Russell, Reeves, Hachimura, AD, and LeBron to start. And I think it could open things up for Russell, who had a bad game. And that would be something that would surprise a few of us. It wouldn't surprise me, but he's a very, very valuable player for them too, who just was being pushed to the side. So you're going to have sort of a make it or miss it moment for D'Angelo Russell, I believe, tonight. At the end of the day, I think the Nuggets are going to overcome and they're going to win by a bunch. But I don't think they're going to have the start that they have. I think it's going to be relatively close, and they're going to pull away in the second half.
Okay, good to know. Everybody is talking about Russell. The national media is talking about Russell and how he's going to have an impact for them to, perform well in this series. So that is interesting that you do think he'll be on the starting lineup. We'll see. I see a question that says, any word on how Murray is feeling? We have not heard anything.
Good. No,
Yeah,
like
he's not on the injury report, which is huge because he was on the injury report game 6. He was on the injury report game 1. So for them to take him off means he may not be 100%. But guys, Michael Malone sat there 90 minutes before the game and said he's still questionable. I don't know how actually questionable he was for game 1, but I don't know if that was gamesmanship or what. And then Murray said he had the ear infection. So for the Nuggets to leave him totally off, I think he's on the DMAC recovery. I think it was 9 days, and he sort of got over that hump.
I totally agree. He looked terrible after the game, but that's the weird thing about being sick. Once you get to that recovery period, sometimes it can happen relatively fast if you're on the final couple days of it. So I do think he was on the final days of it. He survived game 1. He looked terrible after the game, but whatever. We won. I'm all right. I'm an elite athlete. I'll get whatever I need to get, and I'll be fine in a couple days. I think Jamal's going to be A-okay. In fact, I bet you anything this is the best he's felt in 2 weeks.
Well, DMAC, Will Peterson actually tweeted this, so I have to give him credit right here. You always ask the best questions when it comes to, anytime there's a press conference. And Will, I saw that yesterday. I was like, that just is spot on. He had tweeted it. And this is one of your best questions right here. So let's take a listen to DMAC asking Jokic a question.
KCP said the only difference between you and LeBron is that he can jump higher than you. Do you feel like your games are similar?
That's a really offensive. I'm joking. I mean,
and he goes on to say, globally, yeah, our games are kind of similar, but that question was fantastic. And obviously we love that the Joker continues to throw jokes at us all the time. But how similar are actually LeBron and Jokic? And when can we start having that conversation, if at all? Because, of course, we have MJ and LeBron as the best that have ever done it. But when can we throw Joker into that conversation, Will?
Go ahead, Will. Sorry.
Well, it's tricky because the athleticism in LeBron and the athleticism in Jokic are in different stratospheres, right? So they're just not the same player in that front, right? But if you want to start going, skill by skill, right? Right now in their careers, if I need a bucket, I'm going to Jokic over LeBron. Right now in their careers, if I need an unbelievable circus pass, I'm going to Jokic over LeBron. And right now in their careers, if I need a rebound, I'm going to Jokic over LeBron. So that's where it gets a little tricky is I'm picking Jokic in all 3 facets of the game, but LeBron's got what? 4 titles. He's got all the freaking records in the NBA history. I mean, Jokic has 0 NBA titles. So they're not even in the same conversation in terms of legacy. But Rachel, where it is fair game, and I think what KCP was getting at, is they are in the same conversation right now in terms of value to their team. And what I just went through is Jokic is more valuable to his team right now than LeBron. The MVP votes the last 3 years have reflected that as a fact. So that's where it's tricky. Legacy, we're nowhere close to talking about it. In the moment, very fair conversation, and Jokic is actually ahead, in my opinion.
But the similarities, and I'll use the Penn example here. Okay, so this is LeBron, all right? This is his career, and this is where he's at. And this is Jokic. There's an intersection happening right now. As LeBron is getting older, his skill set is still excellent, but it's changing. He's playing basketball much more like an in-the-paint big man, which he is. And he's got low post moves, and he can play as a center if he wanted to. He only took 4 3-pointers the other night. Jokic took 3. Jokic made all 3. LeBron missed all 4. LeBron's a good outside shooter, but not spectacular. He's really much more dominant inside in the paint, where his size and athleticism really serves him well because he's still 6'8", closer to 6'9", whereas Jokic is like 7 foot. So they're kind of like intersecting. You know what I'm saying? Like LeBron's getting older, so certain things are going down. Jokic is just better and going up. And I think they're crossing right now. That's Pens. So I think that they're almost identical kind of right now, with Jokic holding an advantage, not only in how they play the game, but I think intellectually, I think they both see the game. And what Jokic said about global, I think is just not global, like, hey, let's go play basketball in Switzerland. I think what he really means is how they just see the game of basketball, how important it is to get other teammates involved, what it means to take over a game if you have to, because it ultimately rests on your shoulders. I think the way they see it, and they both let the game come to them. I don't think either one starts off the day and says, well, time to get my 35 shots like Kyrie Irving. I really do think Irving just says, I'm taking 35 tonight. We'll see what goes in. I don't think LeBron thinks like that, and I don't think Jokic thinks like that. And in terms of asking like Jokic questions, it's always a little tricky because he can give you the my friend, sort of answer. But in this particular case, he actually gave it a very thoughtful answer because I think he really, while the MVP awards don't seem to mean much, I think comparisons to peers, like I think he's a little weird when it comes to Larry Bird and Wilt Chamberlain and all those type of guys. But when you want to compare him to his really successful peers, I think he really looks up to LeBron, rightfully so. So I think he really is flattered by that. And that actually does mean something to him. So I think he was trying to be humble because he wants to give full respect to LeBron. But I think he even understands we are pretty similar. There are similarities in how we think basketball should be played. And I think it's incredibly true.
But I think what Will pointed out of, if we're going to talk about the greatest of all times, and trust me, Jokic this season, phenomenal. Last 2 seasons, absolutely phenomenal. But you do have to win championships in order for you to be a contender for any sort of GOAT phrase.
Yeah.
And I'm totally with you. I don't think that they're in the conversation right now, but that's why, like, when can that conversation happen? Say Jokic does go out and win a championship this year. Okay, so he's won 1. He's got 2 MVPs. Should have been a 3rd. I think we all can agree on that one. So can we put him in the conversation then, or does he have to win at least 2, at least 3 titles to be in that conversation? I saw somebody who said he would have to at least win 2 rings. But it is just an interesting thing to, like, kind of have on the, the back of your mind of when can that conversation happen, because we all are so lucky to be able to watch Jokic day in and day out.
Well, real quick, as a player, he's already established himself as one of the greatest big men of all time. The end. He's already done it. He has back-to-back MVPs and came in second. He's had a 3-year run of incredible dominance, and that just flat out puts him as a player as one of the best big men of all time. You can't have the conversation without him. And likely he's the best passing big man of all time right now, too. What you're talking about is legacy. Mm-hmm. And you cannot be in the legacy conversation. You can be in the player conversation just based on how you play. Like John Stockton will always be in the point guard player conversation, but his legacy is tainted to the degree he doesn't have any championships.
Yeah.
When you want to talk legacy and want to be really one of the greatest of all, if you really want to be LeBron, not only do you have to win 1 or 2, frankly, to be in that conversation, you got to win 4 or 5. I mean, that's how exclusive that club is.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say he would need to go on a Steph Curry type run in the next 7-8 years to finish his career. And Steph won 4 titles in 8 years. That's what would have to happen for Jokic to even sniff that. And I don't even know if Jokic's going to play 8 more years. His Supermax is only for the next 5 years. So we'll see. But it's a great conversation. It's a great question. Don't get me wrong. But let's live in the moment. Let's get 7 more wins. Let's get 1 before we start thinking about 4.
I mean, we can be happy that he's the best player in the world right now, which is exactly who he is. That's exactly who he is. And how many guys can ever claim at any moment in their careers they're the best player in the world? And he's that right now.
Very few.
We are so lucky. We're also kind of lucky. Well, it depends on what side of the spectrum you are coming from. You're either on the, I want the Empower Field to stay there. I don't want a new stadium. Or you're like, I want the shiny new thing that's going to come into town. And it seems like the stadium talks have been divided about who should pay for it. Should it be the taxpayers or should it be completely on the owners? And I'm curious to hear both of your thoughts, Will.
I mean, they have like over $60 billion to their name. I think it would just be unfair to ask the city of Denver to fork over a penny for a new stadium. And I know this topic has come up recently because the mayoral candidates in Denver are a little bit divided on it. Jake Shapiro wrote about it at denversports.com. You can get the details there. I'm not a big fan of publicly funded stadiums under many circumstances at all. I'm really not a big fan of publicly funded stadiums when your owners are worth more than $60 billion. They should take a lead from Stan Kroenke, who paid for SoFi Stadium in LA himself. If the Walton Penner family ownership group wants a new stadium, I think that's awesome. And I think they've been great owners so far. I loved everything they've done in their year at the helm. But a new stadium would need to come out of their pockets, and I would encourage them to build a whole district. And I promise you, you own all the restaurants, you own all the land, you own all the bars, you own the stadium, you will make your money back.
I thought it was cute how the mayoral candidates were debating, where the stadium should be in the city. Like, not only is it got to stay in the city, it's got to stay on the west side. I mean, these are comical conversations amongst these people that really got to, really make sure that there's other city issues that are handled. The fact that they're chiming in on this is ridiculous. There's other much more serious city problems to handle just in terms of being in a city. They don't get a say, okay? Guys, it's up to the Walton Penner group, and the mayor is just kind of this like nuisance for them to have to sort of deal with. But I hope everybody recalls that I said on this show months ago that the Walton Penner group is never, ever in their ownership history going to build a new stadium, period. It is not going to happen. It is much more likely that they spend the next 10 years building up this stadium through the course of the lease that is part of the stadium right now, and that they sell the team with designs and property, and they sell everything in about 10 years for around $20 billion. That is much more likely to happen. You're shaking your head. I got it. But look at what they're just doing. They're expanding the Jumbotron. It's going to be unbelievable. I saw the plans for the Breckenridge Bourbon Club, which is going to be field level access for the big bucks people. They're going to just, there it is. That looks beautiful. The likelihood of me ever stepping inside of that is like zero, but it looks wonderful. There you go, rich people. That's a cool place for you. So that's what's going to happen, because what they've realized in these stadiums is we can get way more money out of the stadiums itself. And I'm not trying to say anything critical about the Walton Penner group. It just is beyond obvious to me what this is all about. I don't know if their kids care about running the Broncos. And frankly, that's never going to happen anyways. Greg and Carrie are in their young 50s. I mean, they would have to own the Broncos into their 80s before they would pass it down to their kids. I mean, that's just not going to happen, guys. I think Greg and Carrie, Walton Penner, I think they're doing the right thing. I like what they're doing. I support what they're doing. They're welcome to Wrexhaming the Broncos, which I think is terrific. But I still think this is a really cool, fun project for them for the next decade or so. If it was more serious, they would really get in the weeds on a completely new facility. I think they will take football seriously. I think they'll take their stadium seriously, but we're not seeing any evidence, zero, that we're going to see some sort of expansion to a new facility. In fact, Derek Wolf was talking to Greg Penner over the weekend. You know what the plans are, guys? Expand the field house out into the parking lot and make a better locker room facility for the players actually over in the field house area rather than the small building that's off to the east, I suppose. So I think you're going to see expansion, money spent, but just not a new, big, huge facility. You're just going to see upgrades upon upgrades to what already exists. And that's going to be expensive. I mean, we are talking hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not cheap. It's just not billions of dollars.
Well, I think both Will and I agree, Will, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, that they're not going to be selling it in, what'd you say, 5 years, 10 years?
10 years, when the lease comes up.
Okay, well, I do like this one where it says tattoo bet, DMAC, do it, because I don't think that's happening, my friend.
I'll throw, sure. 10 years, tattoo bet, you're on. Let's hope we can all be accountable in 10 years to that sort of thing. So, listen, there have been so many signs, guys. They've spoken about the lease on the building countless times. They're doing significant, hundreds of millions of dollars of upgrades to the main stadium. They're planning on doing upgrades to the field house, that area. They have done a wonderful job pouring money and trying to do the best that they can with what they have. It's just not a new building, guys, is like a $4 billion project. I can't even blame him at this point. Let's focus on getting this team better, getting it healthy, and pouring a lot of money into what we already have. I'm not anti what they're doing whatsoever. I just think they'll have fun with this project. They'll make a massive profit of it in about a decade, and it'll be the next owner's project to take it to the next level. By the way, what's wrong with that? I'm seeing like shaking the heads and groans, but I mean, as long as they take it seriously, which they are, they put a lot of money into it, which they are. Why exactly is that a negative?
I don't think it's a negative. I just don't think it's going to happen. Go ahead, Will.
I mean, you've been talking for the last 7 minutes. That's why I'm nodding my head, because I've disagreed with every point you've made over the last 7 minutes. So I don't even know where to begin. I mean, first of all, on your last point, they don't need the money, DMAC. They can't spend this money in their lifetime, their next lifetime, their kids' lifetime, their grandkids' lifetime. Like, why would this be a profit thing? Like, why would they try to flip this for more money? They don't
because that's how you measure success. It's not about the money. It's how you measure success.
No, you know what's measuring success is being in the most exclusive cool kids club in America and winning Super Bowls. And they could do that into their 80s. They could do that the rest of their lives. And Greg Penner could hoist Lombardi 3 or 4 times while he runs this team. I firmly believe that the Walton Penner family ownership group will still own the Broncos the day we all leave this earth, because it's going to be in the family for 60, 70, 80 years. They're going to pass it down. That's why they bought this thing. It'll be like the Ford family in Detroit, the Hallis family in Chicago, the Rooney family in Pittsburgh. This thing's going to be in the Walton Penner family till 2100.
The only thing I could say, and we've seen that the Walton Penner ownership group is very involved, it feels like, is what if their kids don't want to be involved at all?
Yeah,
What if they don't want to touch it at all? That's the only way I can see that happening.
But DMAC just made the point. Greg and Kerry are both super young. So that's 40 years from now. So that's a little different than 10 years from now. It's 2023. So if they sell the Broncos in 2063, okay, that's about how long Pat Bowlen owned the team for, right? 40 years? Okay, maybe it's a 40-year thing, but 40 years is a heck of a lot different than 10 years. Yeah. I don't see any scenario where it makes sense for them to flip this in 10 years for money. The last thing those people need is money. They don't.
But again, Will, it's not the money. It's what the money says. And also,
you know what's cooler than money? Lombardi trophies.
Yeah, but there's other things in life too. It's not that you mentioned a bunch of football families. Okay, those football families, everyone you mentioned started in the 60s. The Hunts and the Rooneys. I mean, even Robert Kraft at this point has got to be 30 years into it. I mean, you're talking about, like family heritage organizations. Well, these guys just aren't like that. They're just starting to learn about it and love it. And I hope I'm not being perceived as saying critical things about them. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's great that they own the Broncos, and I'm a full supporter of everything they've been doing because, again, and I've used the welcome to Wrexham analogy many, many, many times. But I think it's great what Rod McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds did for a small town in Wales. I think it's tremendous what they're doing. But do you really expect Rob and Ryan to own a Wrexham football club for the next 30 years? I mean, and pass it down to their kids? No, it's a cool project for them right now.
Yeah, but Wrexham's not the NFL, with all due respect to Wrexham.
Yeah, but Rob and Ryan Reynolds, as successful they are, aren't multi-billionaires either. So to me, it is apples to apples. I mean, for what the value is of who they are, it actually lines up perfectly. And again, this is not an indictment or something negative about them. I think it's great what they're doing. I don't even think it's a bad thing, period. It's going to keep the Broncos in downtown Denver, and it's going to make the stadium really cool. I think all those are great things. They're going to do renovations to the Fieldhouse main area, and that's going to be cool too. So what in 10 or 15 years if they sell it to somebody else?
We could have this conversation for an hour long, and honestly, some of us could probably get very upset because we could all see different ways on this. And I know even people in the comments, so I'm not just saying you two by any means. But DMAC, you said something about quote unquote being cool. Is this whole Breckenridge bourbon thing that they're doing cool or?
Yes, for rich people, sure.
Okay,
yes.
But my question is, if
there's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with it.
But if you have seats where they're going to put this and all of a sudden your seats are moved, I'm not exactly sure how that's all going to work. Are you pissed? Because think about it. If you are in those, is it the orange or the blue seats that are like the first 2 rows down there at Empower Field? If you have those seats and you have sat there for so long, like those are good seats and you're a part of the environment, and all of a sudden a bar is being thrown in there and yours just somewhere near there. I feel like that's kind of.
Wait, I gotta stop you. Where'd you see anything about moving seats? This is under the stadium.
So, but because you're going to be able to see the field.
I didn't get that opinion from the renderings. I think it's more like a club in the bowels of the stadium, like the Lexus Club at Ball Arena, where it's just a cool kids club, and then you walk out to where you need to go. I think they're literally taking real estate under the stadium, turning it into a 9,000 square foot bar, and they're not messing with anyone's seats.
Okay, because that's a lot better to me. The way I've heard it, and I heard it today on the fan too, was that, they're just gonna have to move some of the seats that are down there because you're gonna be able to look out at the field. So I don't know. I guess we have to find out. I agree with you though. The renderings don't look like that. We'll pull them back up here again. They look super duper nice, and I mean, if you have a lot of money.
If you were going to be able to see the field, you 100% would have a rendering. Like I know what you're talking about, Rachel. You're talking about like Vegas and Dallas and SoFi, where there's suites on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the article yesterday. I read the press release. I read the story at DenverBroncos.com. I never got that impression. I'm not saying I'm correct, and it's really interesting. You heard some of our folks talking about it on the fan. We should probably ask the Broncos for clarity, though, because you're right.
Yeah.
If you're a season ticket holder in row 1 and that's getting wiped out, you're not going to be real thrilled about that.
No, true. Well, I'm glad that you didn't get that, because when I saw the pictures too, I was just assuming that this was going to be some club level type thing. I hadn't read the press release on it, but I just think removing some seats, I don't love the idea of that. No matter, I think SoFi and how you can sit down there is really cool too, but I just can't imagine if you've had those seats for a long time and then all of a sudden you're getting moved because of some bourbon house bar.
I think everybody's going to be fine in that department. I what I read is 100 level. And likely there'll be some sort of entrance, exit that you can go right to your seats from the club. Like there's some sort of access so you don't have to go up to the main concourse and come down. By the way, I was in St. Louis, and there's a cool little club for the Cardinals fans that is just like that. If you buy a certain seat, you can dip down into it. It is actually the Club Lexus example, I think, is absolutely perfect. That's exactly what I think it's going to be. So I think it'll sort of depend. I don't think anybody's going to be done wrong by this. I think, everybody's going to be all right. I think it's a cool thing for rich people, and whatever. That's cool. I mean, I got no problems with it. Looks cool to me. And it's crazy what you can do in the bowels of the stadium. I mean, I don't know if people know this, but there's a little dining club area. It's small, but it's where all the press conferences happen. So you could actually, if you get into that little area, watch all the press conferences while you have a cocktail and see things on TV. There's all sorts of crazy nooks and crannies. There's an elevator in the building that goes directly to the owner's box. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of cool little stuff in the stadium itself.
Well, how about the room that's next to the press conference with one-way glass or whatever it is, so that there's a little mini bar area where you can sit, and if you're not one of the muggles, and then you can still watch the press conference over there.
It's all that stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, this is more examples of how they're making the stadium cool so they don't build a new stadium. I mean, you're not going to do all of this and then just rip it to the ground 6 or 7 years later. You're just not. I mean, these changes that they're making, they're going to envision for a long, long time. Or it's up to the new people to figure out whatever they want to build. And listen, I get it. When you have billions of dollars, who cares? You can put a wrecking ball through something you built yesterday. It's just money, I suppose, if you're willing to spend it. But again, these are not bad news stories. These are not bad news stories. These are cool stories. The stadium is cool. It's going to be cool for the players. It's going to be cool for the fans. I think the district down there is not great, to say the least. But, whatever. Who knows what else is going to go in down there?
I just want to make 2 things clear. First of all, from the Broncos directly, it is a ground level club. Okay, so it's not in the hundreds. It's not in the club. It is a ground level club. And 2, you guys know the stadium better than I do. You go to a lot more games. but it is 9,040 square feet. So that's big. Think about how many square feet your house is. That's big on the east side of the stadium. So the east side. So ground level, east side, they're somehow finding 9,000 square feet to build this thing. That's what we know here today.
Well, thank you for looking up that information. Yeah, we hardly ever walk over to the east side, DMAC, so I can't tell you.
Never.
Besides,
I'll never see it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, besides the visitors' locker room, we hardly ever go over there.
I don't know what the hell's in that building. I hear it's cool.
Well, maybe they have
see.
9,000 square feet to build a Breckenridge club, right?
Yeah, I
literally
mean,
like, wow.
Unused real estate.
Good for them. Wonderful. I see the scoreboard being built every day that I go past the stadium on the way down to Ball Arena. It's gonna be cool, guys. It's gonna be cool. And let me say something else positive. I was watching that fourth quarter of the Nuggets last night. Hey, Russell Wilson, you're looking good, dude. You're looking good. I mean, if he's having problems this year, it's not because of fitness. I mean, the dude looks like a model. So, I mean, way to go. I mean, the sweater fits great. He looks like, it goes like that and this, that. I mean, he looks awesome, so you look great, Russ. You look awesome.
Let's hope he can be great on the field. Real quick, I can't believe we're already in an hour, but I do want to touch on this because if you have a lot of money, even if it's just millions of dollars, you can get an F650. I didn't even know that they made super trucks like this, to be completely honest with you, and that you could buy them. But of course, Coach Prime gets one with Prime on the front of it. A standard model for this without any of Sanders Editions retails for $150,000. And he says, you got to jump like Ja Morant to get in my car. I don't know if that was the best phrase to use considering what's going on with Ja Morant, but I also can't believe they make F650s because I'm not a car person, but I had no clue that they made something above a 350.
Let me tell you something. When you have to go from Foothills Parkway down to Pearl Street, if you don't have a vehicle that can also be in a Mad Max movie, you're in big trouble.
My sister is a Boulderite, and I showed her the picture, and she was like, and he's living in Boulder? Where's his Subaru or his Prius? And I was like, exactly, Coach Prime. We know you're in Boulder. Don't worry. Everyone will see you in your truck.
What are the functional purposes for a vehicle like that if you're not hauling cargo across the country?
Being seen. And that's about it.
Rachel, if you pull it up real quick again, look at the picture on the right. I mean, come on. Coach Prime ain't a small dude. That looks like a military vehicle. That thing is massive.
Why do we have to go a 650? I feel a 450 would have worked just fine, Coach Prime. There's already enough people up there. But Will, as always, a pleasure. DMAC, you too. To everybody in the comments, thank you so much. Jake Shapiro, we also got to give him a huge shout out. And then Matt, our producer on the back end as well. Make sure you go listen to Jake on the Brothers Barbecue Denver Nuggets. What is it called? War Room. Excuse me. I couldn't think of it. Go listen to him today. And then, of course, DMAC. Who are you with today, DMAC?
Orlando Franklin.
Love Orlando. So definitely listen to it on the drive. And then we'll be down there at Ball Arena tonight for Game 2 against the Lakers. We will see you guys all tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful Thursday. We'll see you for a Friday edition of Coffee Break. Bye, everybody.